Well, hello, buddies. Welcome to Barn Burner here on your Friday. What is happening? What's good? Hopefully, life is just treating you dynamite today as we get into part two of our special conversation with Jamie McLennan. We'll get to that in a moment. But we are here in the Tower Chrysler Studios. Tower Chrysler, still the undisputed, defending heavyweight champion of Dodge Chrysler Ram dealers. Something like that. No, Consumer Choice Award winner. That's what it is. Consumer Choice Award winner, Calgary's favorite Chrysler Dodge Ram dealer. They went out, hey, it's consumer choice. You can choose whoever you want. And everybody said, you know what, Tower Chrysler, that's the one for us. So as I said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. That's what we say with Tower Chrysler. 10901 McLeod Trail South and towerchrysler.com. Yes, we had the first half, I suppose. It was a very lengthy conversation that we had with Jamie McLennan. We'll have the second half of it for you in a moment. But I'm pumped about this. It's been a long time for me, and it's maybe been a long time for you. Maybe you've never done it, but this is very cool. New sponsor on board here at Barn Burner. We're pumped to welcome Century Downs Racetrack and Casino. Have you gone to the track? Have you ever done the track? You've been to the track? Now, I've not done it a ton, but it's one of those things. Every time I do it, it's a blast. And it's like, when are we coming back? When are we doing this again? We are into September, which means it's thoroughbred racing season at Century Downs Racetrack and Casino. September and October, it's the thoroughbreds. It's the best. And we're going. You, me, all of us, we're loading up and we are going. Every Saturday and Sunday at Century Downs Racetrack and Casino, they've got the thoroughbreds going. Post time is 12:45. Admission is free. All ages are welcome. You can watch, you can wager, have some food, have some drinks, enjoy yourself. It's entertainment, and there's an adrenaline to it that you just don't find anywhere else. And coming up on September 30th, it's going to be a Saturday, 12:45, as we mentioned, post time. It is Barn Burner Day at Century Downs Racetrack. We want you to come on out. We're going to be there doing our thing. Flames Nation crew is going to be there. A free day at the track. Come as you are. We're not going to judge you. We're just going to have a blast. If you've never done it, honest, you're going to have fun. That's all what it comes down to. We are going to have some drinks, maybe put a shekel or two down and cheer on some horses for sure. Picking some winners, and there's even going to be a special. They've rolled out the red carpet, pumped with Century Downs. They've got a barn burner heat is going to be on the card for one of the heats on Saturday. So that is going to be awesome. Make some plans. We're wound up for it. We got this done in the nick of time. Coming up on Saturday, September 30th. It's right away. Century Downs Racetrack and Casino, 12:45 post time, but you got to be there early. You got to get a drink. You got to get the card. You got to, okay, who are we taking? Are we doing a trifecta? What are we doing? We got to get it all figured out, but it is going to be Barn Burner Day at the racetrack with Century Downs Racetrack and Casino coming up on the 30th. Pumped for it. Can't wait. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Let's get to it. Good stuff with Noodles yesterday. Better stuff today. He's a flame. Mika Kiprasov. Helicopters and why would I give it away? Why would I do that to you? Let's get to it. Retro and I sitting down once again with Jamie McLennan. June 2000, Calgary, Alberta. The Minnesota Wild and the Columbus Blue Jackets hold the expansion draft. Second overall pick to the Minnesota Wild, Jamie McLennan. I had to go and look, well, who went first? Itchy, scratchy Rick Tabaracci goes to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The first 6 picks were all goaltenders. I get crazy that. Yeah. Did you feel like because you were obviously exposed by St. Louis, and did you feel you were going to get picked up there? What was your thought, obviously, when you now are going from a 51-win team to an expansion team?
Okay, not only did I feel, I knew I was being picked, because you want to talk about, backdoor conversations and, all of that type of stuff. It's the reason why I hired Maxi from Fierzy, because I knew I was going from a first place team to a last place team, and that was going to be not a last place, but to an expansion team. So I knew it was going to be very tough mentally to handle that. So yes, I knew in February of that year that I was still playing in St. Louis that I was going to be exposed, and that here's the other thing. I needed to sign a contract. I needed to be under contract to be exposed. I was going to be unrestricted. So they needed to sign, the St. Louis Blues needed to sign me to expose me. So I had some leverage. So to the point where I do believe that Minnesota might have been involved in the contract extension to the St. Louis Blues,
Sure.
which was, like, I can't confirm or deny. It's more just like they knew what was going on, and I had to be under contract to be exposed. And Brent Johnson was coming up. He was going to take my job the next year. He was ready to play in the NHL. So I knew I was not going to be a Blue the next year. So whether I went to Minnesota or got traded or whatever, I needed to be signed to be exposed. And I knew it was 99.9% chance I was going to Minnesota, because I think the scouting staff and the people there liked me. So that's kind of what I had heard.
So what about that team? I remember talking with like Perry Barazan when he goes to the San Jose Sharks, and they're new, and it was a ragtag bunch and just crazy, playing out of the Cow Palace and that down in San Jose. Obviously a little bit different here. You guys won 25 games. Scott Pellerin led you with 39 points in scoring that year. It's total Jacques Lemaire hockey. It's trap it up. That you guys had 25 is a miracle for that team, because you were not very good.
Well, and so if you go back, there's a stat that sometimes comes up, even when I'm doing color to this day. It's called the lowest goal support for a goaltender in modern day. That was me. So I played in 38 games that year, and the team scored 53 goals total. So
just get me one, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Except I would give up 4. But I want to say, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think I have 4 shutouts that year. And I think 2 of them were 0-0 ties, where I had to.
Didn't even get the win.
Back then they had ties, right? Back then they had ties. So I remember playing at home. I think we were playing at home, and I got a 0-0 tie, and the trainer cut the puck in half, and Roberto Luongo got half of the puck, and I got half of the puck. Like, in my storage downstairs, I've got a couple half pucks that have shutouts on them because they were 0-0 ties. Like, so yeah, you want to talk about, and honestly, first-class organization, unbelievable setup, unbelievable building from day one. I mean, Minnesota should have never lost a team anyways. Yeah. But you went back there, the building was packed. They set it up amazing. To the point where a lot of the guys that I played with in year 1, year 2, they're still entrenched in the organization. Like Wes Walz is still there. Brad Bombardier is still there. Darby Hendrickson's still there. Like, it's just Tony DaCosta, they're trained. The head equipment trainer has been their only equipment trainer the whole time. Like, yeah. They put together a really good setup there. But wins were hard to come by. And I remember Jacques Lemaire was the coach, and we had meetings that summer, and Jacques took me and Manny Fernandez into a room. And he goes, I know your contract. You're getting paid lots of money. You're going to get a lot of hard starts this year, Noodles. And he goes, do you have a problem? And he points to Manny with that guy being my sister's kid. And I don't know if you guys knew this. Manny Fernandez was Jacques Lemaire's sister's kid. And I go, no, I'm fine with that. I go, like, this will be a healthy competition. I go, as long as you don't. He goes, I don't have a problem. And I was like, all right, let's do this. So Manny and I had a unique relationship, but Manny was a really, really good goalie, really good. Jacques, to his word, that year he said, you're going to get some tough starts. Like, we're going into Colorado, and they've got, a team that's a Stanley Cup. You're going to be playing those games, and I said, no problem. And I think I had 5 wins, 25 losses, and 5 ties, whatever I had that year. But statistically, it was ugly. But I swear, like, I even say this to this day, I thought I played really well for them. It didn't, there was no wins there. There's just no, you were an expansion team. And then, the next year they signed Dwayne Rollison, who was an upgrade over me. So I ended up having to play a year in the minors because my contract was pretty good. I had what's called salary revision. So I can't remember what I was making, let's say $1 million that year. But if I got to 5 games, it was like $50,000 bonus and $50,000 added to the next year's salary. It was this like crazy double bonus. So because I played 38 games, I had inched my way up to a pretty decent salary. So I priced myself out of the league as a backup.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of wait a year to get back into the fold. And you could renegotiate the deals back then, but you had teams calling going, we'll trade for you tomorrow if you tear up your contract, and you can go 2 years at 7, or you can play in the minors at 1 year at 1.4. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to collect my money and play in the minors and rebuild myself and then go back. And that's kind of what happened is I priced myself out of the league as a backup and didn't have a statistical great season the year before. And, I had to battle to get back. And I got back when Craig Button traded for me. I went to Calgary.
So just because you're a great teammate, and you're of course going to be the guy. Yeah. Some tough games. Yeah. Hey, that put me in. I'm fine with that. Were you fine with that? Because even you and Roman Turek win the Jennings, whether your name's on the trophy or not, 51 wins, and yeah, you lose in round 1. But then you got to be thinking, I'm going to an expansion team, but I'm playing. I got as good a shot as anybody. And the coach says, hey, it's all good, but you're going to play some tough games. And you play those tough games. And then the next year you're in the minors while you're losing those games. And then at the end of the day, don't you feel like that's a kick in the balls for being a good guy?
It was, but ultimately, Manny played better than me. Like, he was a better goaltender than me. So, on nights where, I remember I lost 4-1 in San Jose one night, and Jacques took me into the office afterwards, and I was like, oh, am I getting it? And he goes, I just got to say, I'm sorry. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, we gave up 28 quality chances tonight. He goes, that's the most I've ever seen in an NHL game. And I remember the 4th goal I allowed was a bad goal, 5-hole. But outside of that, I thought I played really well. But statistically, it's still a loss. Statistically, my save percentage probably that night, I don't even know what the shots were, but probably didn't hit 900. So you're like, okay, does it look good? No. Does it it was a natural reset, because it's like this guy didn't do the job, but it's like we weren't on a great team. But there were times where okay, Manny stood on his head. He deserved, if you look at Manny's stats compared to mine that year, Manny was great. He was a better goaltender than me, and he outplayed me. But then, if you looked at the quality of starts, some of them were, more on par with us, but it doesn't matter. He was still going to be. And if you look at his career trajectory, he ended up being a starter there. And I think one year he might have played the All-Star game. He was that good. He was a really good goalie. But that was our first year, and we were still kind of learning and under Jacques. And Jacques was awesome. He was really good to me. But he was just very honest. He's the coach that I had who always had an answer. Sometimes you talk to a coach and you say, what do you think about this? And he's, oh, you could try this, you could try this. Jacques would just say, you do this, and this will happen. It was unbelievable how smart he was, cerebral. So I loved my time there, but you're right. Believe me, when I was sitting in the minors in Houston and, thinking where the year and a half ago, I'm in St. Louis on top of the world. There were some tough times for sure, because that's when I knew I loved hockey more than making money, because I was making the most I'd ever had in my career, but I was miserable doing it in the AHL. But it was a good reset for me. I had Todd McLennan, and he was a young coach, and he was awesome. And Todd, I have so much respect for Todd. I'm a huge fan of his, and I watched him work every day, and he was awesome to me, because he said to me day one, he goes, I'm not sure how long you're going to be here, whether it's 2 days, 2 weeks, or the whole season. He goes, just give me your best. And I said, Todd, I'll give you my best. And I was there the whole year. I think we went to the conference finals or the finals in the AHL that year. We played well, and I thought I gave him my best. But there were times, to be honest, where I was pissed to be there, because I didn't think I deserved to be there. didn't matter. Like I was there, and I had to eat it.
You mentioned the trade to Calgary, June of 2002, a ninth round pick. Some will be shocked to know that there used to be 9 rounds in a draft. So how did you, I guess, did you know this trade was coming? Had you lobbied for a trade, or how did it come to be? Because Calgary brings you in, and then that's kind of another chapter for you.
Well, again, talking about potential information behind the scenes, I did know that I was going to be traded to Calgary. I didn't realize it was going to be during one of my pub crawls, so I had to take a quick pause and take that phone call from from Craig Button and from Minnesota as well, wishing me well. And there's a bunch of guys yelling and screaming in the background, half naked. Who knows what was going on at that time? But it was June, and I got traded for a 9th rounder that doesn't exist anymore, which is kind of funny. But I knew I was going. Craig had intimated to my agent, Pat Morris, that he wanted me in the system, wanted me, back. It was more back again. I was on a more reasonable contract for what I brought. I was on a backups contract, and I can't remember what it was. I want to say maybe $7 or $650 or something like that. But it was, it was decent. Like I got paid well, and got brought back into the fold, and I got back to the NHL, which is where I wanted to be.
And working was Large back in Calgary at that time?
Yeah, so Large was there. So I came back, and that was, Craig was there. We had Greg Gilbert, and then I can't remember when Daryl came in and took over type of thing. I think that's when so it was me and Large, and then it was me and Large, and then Daryl came in, and then he brought Kipper in. Daryl came in near the end of that year, because I remember he had
spring of 03.
He had a chat with all the guys who were over 30. He brought us all into this room, and I remember looking around the room, and I think it was me, Dave Lowry, Marty Jelena. I'm trying to remember who else. There was, the 30 plus group, Craig Berube, I think, and he just said, "We've got 5 games left." And he goes, if this team goes into the tank because of the lack of leadership in the room, I'm going to have a problem with that. So he said, I want to see compete these last 5 games. They mean something. They mean something to everybody. And he goes, one thing that you guys have in common in this room, what is it? We're all looking at each other. I'm like, I don't know what it is. He goes, you're over 30 years old. Remember that. And it was interesting. So it was, Daryl always did everything with a tact, right? He had mindset behind it. So yeah, that was like, I think my first and second year in Calgary and coming back. But I played with Roman, and then we brought Kipper in, and that's when Kipper came in and hit the ground running and never looked back.
Every day on Barn Burner, the Pinder Report is brought to you by Village Honda. Village Honda has new Hondas arriving daily and has a huge pre-owned inventory with over 70 used vehicles on site and access to over 400 more in their dealer group. All makes, all models, all budgets. It's award-winning service, a top-rated team. Village Honda is your dealership for life, located in the Northwest Auto Mall and online at villagehonda.com.
The Hearing Loss Clinic was opened in 1993 with a simple mission: make a positive difference in the lives of our clients. It's never been about hearing loss or hearing impairment. It's been about empowering you to be socially active or more connected with loved ones and confident in every aspect of your life. Men and women of all ages, and of course, children can suffer from hearing loss too. There can be serious health risks that are linked to untreated hearing loss, and you can get a peace of mind at 4 Calgary locations: Shaughnessy, University District, Northwest in the Crowfoot Business Center, and in the North Hill professional offices. If you've got issues with your hearing, come visit one of their 4 Calgary locations for an evaluation. They're the 2022 Chamber of Commerce Professional Services Excellence Award winner. Visit one of their 3 locations in BC. You can find them in Cranbrook, Creston, Fernie, Golden, and Invermere. Famous people that have swung by the Hearing Loss Clinic: John Huffnagel, Lanny McDonald, Haley Wickenheiser, Peter Marr. It's worked for them, and it can work for you. Check out their social streams on Twitter at The Hearing Loss or on Instagram at The Hearing Loss Clinic.
Do you think Turek had any hand in you coming back in there? Like, was your relationship in St. Louis one that they would want to, if Turek's our number one and McLennan and he got along well and they played together well in St. Louis, let's bring them together? Do you think that played a part in it?
I think it does, because if you look at some of the goalie partners I worked with, and I know this is a public story, but Roberto Luongo, when he was negotiating with Keenan for an extension in Florida, one of his, we'll call it demands, was that I'm part of it. He extend me. But I had an option to be picked up. So he wanted my option picked up. Louis wanted to sign, and he wanted, I think the goalie coach, he wanted like things to, and it never worked out to the point where Louis got traded to Vancouver and Keenan didn't pick my option. So it's, there was things where you had that relationship with the starter where, yes, if it's a choice between McLennan and somebody else who is probably in the same, conversation, but McLennan's played with Turek, absolutely. So, and Roman and I had a great relationship in St. Louis. I think I had a great relationship with all my goalie partners, some closer with others. I'm still very close with Louis. I'm still very close with Kipper. I'm one of the only guys I feel like he talks to in this world, because he's, quite a recluse. But, Fierzy and I worked well together. Hexy I run into. Tommy Soderstrom, I don't know if you guys had those cameos. I'm on that Cameo or whatever, that app. Somebody sent me a note asking for a cameo for Tommy Soderstrom's birthday, and it was like the Tommy Soderstrom fan club. So I sent it to him. I was like, God, I miss that guy. Or I told the story about him on the stock market and stuff, and he sent me a note on Twitter. So it was kind of neat. Like I had very unique relationships with all my goalie partners, but I do think that the familiarity and having a good tandem like we did in 1999, me and Roman, probably helped with them to bring me to Calgary to play with them for sure.
So Kiprusoff, and we've had you on the show a number of times, and you've talked about this a lot, and probably Flames fans know it, but Turek is injured. You're playing. Here again, this is my time. Grab a hold of the stick. It's my chance to go, and then you get injured.
How many games did you play before you got injured? Because you were playing well.
Well, I broke my sternum.
Yeah, what's
Boston
his name?
that night.
Rolston, didn't he hit you with a slapper?
Yeah, Brian Rolston hit me right here, and it fractured my sternum and spidered it or whatever, and chipped my clavicle. I still have a bump in there. It's like I think a calcium deposit now. But I played 10 games with it, and I remember talking to Daryl about it because I couldn't move my arms that well. Like everything's attached. So it's like, okay, yeah, everything's attached to your breastplate. So you're kind of like, okay, if I keep my hands in front of my body, that could work out. And so, so we put an extra pad on there, and the guys knew, and, in practice, I'm just kind of standing there in practice, and then, okay, games would come and a shot would come. And if you opened up, I could feel tearing in there. That was painful, very painful. But I remember talking to Daryl and said, let me play. And I said, the minute that I feel like I'm hurting the team, I will let you know. You'll obviously know through my play, but you can take me out. But I said, let me play. And that, I think it was about 10 games in that January time. Roman had blown his knee out. And I think Danny Sabrin might have been up, and I was grinding away. But I can't remember, when did he trade for Kipper? He might have traded Kipper earlier.
November.
But I just
earlier.
Oh, you know what it was? He traded in November, but what happened was Kipper hurt his knee.
Yeah, Kipper hurt his knee at the All-Star break.
Yeah, so Kipper hurt his knee, Roman had a knee injury, and then I broke my sternum. So I was like, let me play through this until Roman comes back. So I talked to Daryl. Daryl was good with it. The guys banded. The guys were blocking shots. We were a tight defensive team. And we won some games. I felt like I played solid. But to this day, I remember the moment where I knew I was hurting the team more than I was helping. It was in Washington. And we were tied 0-0 with 5 minutes left. It was me and Ole Kolzig. So we both have a shutout going. We're both playing pretty good. And I'd have to go back and look at the box score, but I remember Iggy scored, and it's 5 minutes left in the game. I'm like, okay, we can do this. We can win. I could get a shutout here. And then they scored right away. And And then Matthew Lombardi, I think, scored. And I'm like, okay, with like 3 minutes left, we can do this. And I remember it went back to the point and Gonchar took a slap shot. And I went to catch it and my chest like came open and I like let it go through my glove. Like I didn't have the strength to keep it in. So that made it 2-2. And I'm like, oh, I've really hurt the team here. Iggy scores with like a minute left. So now I'm like, okay, everyone's bailed me out. We're going to do this. And with they pulled their goalie with like 10 seconds left. And I'm standing against the post and Jaromir Jagr throws a hope puck from the corner. It climbs up the net. He's behind the net, climbs up the net, drops in like the crevice of my knee, hits my knee and drops over the goal line. Just the worst goal I've ever, it's still traumatizing to talk about it. The worst goal, and they tie the game to make it 3-3. So I've got a shutout going, me and Kolzig, 5 minutes left in the game. Now it's 3-3, and we're in one, and I can't be trusted. The next puck that's going to be thrown at me is going in the net. Doesn't matter. And after the game, I remember, we ended up tying that game 3-3, fine. But, I remember saying to Daryl, that's enough. I've hurt the team here. And Roman was coming back. So Roman came back and Kipper came back, obviously. And I became expendable because they had the two guys there. And Daryl traded me to the Rangers for Chris Simon, me and Josh Green. So that was kind of the end of, we were in Dallas after I'd gone out all night. And I remember coming home at 5 o'clock in the morning and locking eyes with Daryl in the lobby. And I was like, you didn't see me. I just kind of went up to the elevator and we came down. The bus was at noon and I came down at 11 o'clock and Daryl was in the lobby and he called me over and said, I just traded you to the Rangers. And I remember saying, is it because I broke curfew? He started laughing. He's like, no, he goes, we've been working on this for a while. So anyway, so I got traded and I had to go on the bus to say goodbye to the guys and stuff. So it was that was an emotional time because we were a really close team.
I remember him calling us over to tell us before he told you, I think. And I was like, oh, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask kind of both of you for that because you're a beloved teammate. That's your story. And
beloved
Rhett,
teammate, a leader in the beloved teammate, a leader in the room, the guy that keeps everybody together, the glue, the best seat in the house, supportive of everyone, has other teammates that you just heard stories say, I'll go if he comes. I mean, he knows how much he's liked. And then on top of that, I think that why we felt so shitty, we were that close a team. Plus, he'd played so hard in that pain. And people, it's good right now that you talk about it because there's a guy that played for the Flames a couple of years ago that was in the Stanley Cup final. And he was talking about, and he got hurt, and he talking about how he couldn't get out of bed. And the guy there, he played with it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's different degrees of it, but my point is he'd battled so hard and done so much and been such a part of the integral in getting that group to be a team. And then and even Greener, we all loved Greener because he was so fun and you battled and did what he needed to do to kind of be around. And when you lose guys off of teams that are that close, it's heart-wrenching.
It is hard. It's hard. I remember, and it was getting to New York, they were blowing it up.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I never understood is why the components of that trade. I could see why Daryl wanted Chris Simon, but I was looking last night. They had offloaded so many guys. You played in Messier's final game in the National Hockey League because he was done.
Yeah.
They'd traded Leach. They traded Kovalev. They traded, Holik is a UFA. They're blowing it up. Why did they need you? Because they're not keeping you. Is there not a draft pick? Why did the components of that deal, why it had to have included you at that point?
I think they needed a goalie. It had to go out the other way. I don't know if it was a financial situation or if it was just one had to go out one way. And also trying to remember, they had Jason LaBarbera coming up, but it was me and Mike Dunham. And you're right. We had to be on expiring contracts because they were just going to let us go anyway. So it wasn't like throwaways, but it was like almost, I look at it from a corporate standpoint, like bodies in, bodies out. And that's what it had to happen. So I don't think, put it this way, I don't think the Rangers were like, we need Jamie McLennan or this deal falls through. It's like, we need to make the money fit. So if it was maybe Josh Green and my salary maybe added up to what Chris Simon was making or whatever, but it was, I think it was more and we need a goaltender because they didn't have one at the time. I think LaBarbera was in the minors. And so I think it kind of worked that way. I've actually never asked Darryl the semantics of how it went down, but yeah, it was tough. Watching them go to the finals was cool, but like heart-wrenching. But I remember coming back and Darryl called me personally, and they were against Detroit in game 6, I think, at home. And he's like, I want you in the building. You need to be here. So I talked to Hanlon. I came down. He put me in a luxury box. I just kind of hid. And then you guys won. I think Jelly scored an overtime, or you guys won that night. And I went to like Kaylee's and, had drinks and saw everybody there at the end of the series. And it was kind of cool just to, I was a part of it, but not a part of it. But it was like the guys made me feel a part of it. And then obviously the finals.
It's funny because I know that all the guys in the room, like, I don't know how it would work, but like when your season was over, but your contract wouldn't have been up, because if your contract had been up, we'd have said, you're on the road with us. Let's go. You're it. Just get back down there.
Yeah. Depot's got your shit in the back. Just grab a bag and your jersey and come on the road. So
I pretty much would have done that. That would have been fun.
We've been going there. There's still so much that we could get into, but I don't want to. I mean, God, we've been rolling here. Let's talk about Kipper. You guys have a special relationship. That one year he plays 74 games. Most backups would be choked. I never get to play. This is the shits. But you and Kipper had a great bond. What was it like playing with that guy? And I guess just any Kipper stories. I know there's the one with helicopters and Nickelback and stuff that was in your book. That got it maybe here. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the more like my favorite thing about Kipper was that he always played like the aloof, like, I don't care. I don't really know what's going on. Where he was like the other way. He was sharp as a tack and he saw everything. He was very, very perceptive. So yes, watching him work every day, the coolest thing about it was he knew what it took for him to be ready. So it wasn't like, hey, I need, I'm going to go through practice. I'm going to go through this. It was like, I'm going to stretch. I'm going to take my shots. I'm going to do my pre-scout. And a lot of his pre-scout was either done in his mind, because he would ask me, like, what does that guy like to do? What does this guy like to do? We always talked. So he had everything buttoned down to a point. It was almost like his formula. He'd sit and stretch in the morning. I have no idea what that guy ate for pregame lunch. See on the road, he would have chicken and pasta, but like, he was just one of those guys who he just knew how to play and knew what it took for him to play that night if he needed extra or whatever. But you would think he was so dialed in, so intense. And he was the other way, where I remember one time he always used to bug Depot, our trainer, about being cheap and whatever, like Depot had bought his kids a guinea pig, and the guinea pig only had one eye. So like he used to, he called it like Winky or something. I can't remember what. So we're like, I'll never forget this. I'm sitting on the bench and Kipper come to the bench and we're going into a shootout. And, so whatever the score is, 3-3 or whatever, we're going into a shootout, and Kipper would throw the towel to Depot. Depot would throw him the towel. He'd be mask up. He'd be drinking water. And he would always be looking at Depot and like have one eye closed and be like he just always like, his timing of everything was always perfect, because, you're in this pressure packed situation. He's just to go into a shootout and he's messing with Depot behind the bench, and he loved it. Like he would laugh, like he would look at me, he would have one eye closed and people would be so rattled, like, oh, screw you, Kipper, screw you. And like Kipper would be laughing as he put his mask down. He would look at me like, because him and I knew it was like his sick form of humor. And, that's what he was like to a T. It's just, to this day, we don't talk very often, but it's like, I'll open up a text from him and it's just like a funny video or just a funny little saying, like, an article from a paper. Like, he still reads things, he still follows things, but it's like, to be a picture of like somebody that we played with. And it's just like, look at what this guy looks like now or something. Like, it's just funny. Like, he's always had that really great sense of humor. Rhett, you witnessed it every day too.
Well, that's that's the thing about him, is that he loved to laugh. He loved to be having fun and enjoying it. He loved it all, but he came across as kind of Mr. Serious, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm dialed in all the time. No, you're not. You're a shit disturber.
One time I was coaching, I'll never forget this too. We were going through a rough stretch and I was coaching. So I'm his goalie coach and we're having like a pretty heated coaches meeting, Brent Sutter and Dave Lowry, Rob Cookson, we got all the coaches in there, and there's a knock at the door and Kipper pokes his head in and he's like, I need to talk to my goalie coach, and they're like, okay, Kipper's like, so dialed in, like, okay, Noodles, you go deal with what Kipper wants. So I go back through the gym and he's in Rich Hesketh's, our strength and conditioning is his office, but the blinds are all closed. He takes me in and he closes the door and I'm like, what's up? Like, I'm thinking, okay, like, we're going to talk something. And he presses play on YouTube and it's like a funny video of like, people getting hit in the nuts with balls or something, like it was like a YouTube clip and he's like, look at this. And he's laughing, like, he's like, look at this. And he's laughing and we're watching this video and dying laughing. And like everywhere else, the house is on fire. Like, we're losing games. The coaches, the owner's mad. Like, everybody's mad. And he's showing me this like funny home videos of like, parents getting kicked in the nuts. Like, that was just, and he's laughing, like dying laughing. And I'm like, just be ready to play hockey tonight. That was him in a nutshell. He was so awesome. So awesome.
It's time to discover or rediscover the legendary St. Eugene Golf Resort and Casino. Planning a golf trip, a romantic getaway, or maybe just some tranquility away from the city, St. Eugene is the answer. Hotel, championship golf course, casino, spa, restaurants, all of it nestled in the spectacular Rocky Mountains and just minutes outside of Cranbrook, BC. Visit their website, steugene.ca, and experience the history and heritage of the St. Eugene Golf Resort and Casino.
Call Peter Klein at McLeod Law at 403-254-3864 or go online at mcleod-law.com. You can also find them on social media at McLeod Law LLP. You know Peter Klein at McLeod Law, personal injury guy, but also he's the go-to guy in the city for your disability insurance claims. If your long-term disability insurance company is refusing to pay insurance benefits to you, contact Peter. He's going to help you out. He'll get you the disability benefits you paid for and you deserve. He'll get you your peace of mind back, the peace of mind you paid for.
Now, was he part? I had that right? He was part of the. We're not going to get back. We need a helicopter. We've been out all night. Was he in on that story?
Well, my book, I had to sanitize my book a little bit, put it that way. Okay. But I will just say there were bodies there. Chad is in the years prior has let it out that Kipper was in attendance there. Yeah. Put it that way. Yes, but it never came from me. That's the thing. If you look at my book, it's me in first person, but there were other people. There were other patrons at that house, at Chad's house. And, Chad, to this day, Chad and I are still very close. I was with him last weekend. But, it was a late night. There was a helicopter involved, and Mika Kiprusoff was in the building. Yes. Right. So put it that way. And because
the helicopter was the only way. So you guys have been out, you've been partying, you're at Chad Kruger's house from Nickelback. It's late, and then the realization is, oh shit, we need to get to the rink. We'll never make it in time.
Well, yeah, we need to get back to the hotel. Chad lives in Abbotsford, which is 45 minutes outside of Vancouver. And, the bus and the plane are leaving because we're moving on to the next city. So, yes,
Right.
there was a time crunch, put it that way. And, there's a time crunch only that a rock star could make a phone call that a helicopter would land in his front yard and then take the patrons back to downtown Vancouver so that we could grab our stuff from the room
So you could have
and
a
then get on the
chance.
bus.
Jesus,
So we have a chance to make the time. That one was, dodging bullets left and right. But, it was the longest. It was years later. And I don't know how, I think Chad said it in an interview or something. And I was like, why did you say that name? But I will confirm or deny that he was in attendance that night. Put it that way. It was a late night.
Where do you land the
God, I love that guy.
helicopter? Where does the helicopter land for the hotel? Did they have a pad on the?
I think there's no. It was next, literally, not even a block away.
Yeah.
And there was a car waiting for us too. So, anyways, it's disaster. That's it never stopped. It never stopped. But the thing is that's just one night. And Kipper wasn't a huge partier, but what he was is a guy who was just a good teammate. He was just, if we were going out for drinks, if we were doing something, he would, a lot of times on the road, he would just cave, we call it cave it up, go to his room, eat dinner, stay in. But if there was times where we could all hang out, we would hang out. And he was great at that. He was, Retro, how many times have we been out with him where, he can go the distance, put it that way. For a guy wasn't very thick, he could go the distance with everybody. He could stand in there all night if he had to.
Well, and there's too many guys that wouldn't go. They'd put, forget that it's important to be together and have some fun, have those laughs. The Kipper never missed out on it when it was a team thing. You can't say enough about it.
I remember, first times. The one night we played in Toronto, I remember the one time, and Kipper came to me. He's like, "You have your passport?" I'm like, "Yeah." We're going with Retro. We go down to Buffalo. I feel like we took a car down to Buffalo to a bar, and I was like, "Why are we in Buffalo? There's bars in Toronto." But that's the type of stuff. It's good times, but I don't think. And it comes back to the start of this conversation. It's just everyone's wired differently nowadays. So I don't know what guys are up to for their fun. I'm sure they do have fun, but it's just a different type of fun. The one thing I'll say, Retro, there's a million stories about you. You came to play every night. Mika Kiprusoff came to play every night. Now, he didn't have as many stories, but just, when he took time to go out, he enjoyed himself. But, man, he came to play. And that was the one thing that was always ingrained in us is okay, you're going to go have a little bit of fun. You better be the first guy working your ass off at practice the next day or whatever was asked of you. You better be front and center from the dedication part. Where nowadays you see guys, if they go out all night, I don't know if they can hide it, and I don't know if they can function the way that I could function on no sleep, which, was rare. But then I would certainly sleep the next day. So,
when afternoon naps were longer than your sleep at night, that was usually an indication things had gone well.
Exactly. It was a grind.
We'll wrap it here. I just want because this is another one of those stories that is kind of a legendary, that you have yet to serve 4 games of your 5-game suspension. It is your final game, Game 5, Detroit playoffs. Kipper gets pulled because Red Wings are kind of banging him. In goes Jamie McLennan. Lasts 18 seconds before slashing Johan Franzen 2-5 and a match penalty for aggressive and illegal use of the stick in the closing minutes of play, says Colin Campbell. Jimmy Playfair got dinged $25,000, the team $100,000, and you got 5 games, and you've yet to serve those. And then Kipper had to go back into the net, which I'm sure he appreciated as well. But take us through the 18 seconds.
So, and I served 1 game, so I owe the league 4. They'll never get them from me ever. But So here's my recollection of it, and I'm pretty bang on with it, and I'm going to be dead on it. Here's why I'm bang on it is because it was a stupid thing I did. So you always regret mistakes that you make. So here was my process. I watched for 5 games, I believe it was, these guys accidentally falling on Kipper. You know, like, and it wasn't just Franzen. It was Holmstrom.
All of them. It was the whole plan.
The whole plan was get the Kippers off, which, you know, if I was playing against Kipper, that's what I would do too. But that particular night, I remember, I'm sorry, it was an afternoon. It was a Saturday afternoon. But that particular game, Iggy was losing it because he was chasing that Matthew Schneider around the ice. He was trying to fight them. Brett Lebda had submarine Damon Lankow and went after his knee. So Lanks had butt-ended him. Like it was a war. And I was just sitting there on the bench and watching these guys, oops, I fell over, fell on his leg, fell on it like they were. And I remember thinking that particular day, if I get in, I'm going to try and start a line brawl so that we can have our pennants, because I think we were losing like 5-1, 5-2 at the time.
5-1.
So okay. So at 5-1, I remember Jimmy Playfair just looking at me and going, "Go in." And I swear on my life with my kids, this was not premeditated with Jimmy at all. Because there were people that, you know, said like, "Oh, Jimmy sent him off the bench." All he did was put me in to get Kipper out of there because the game was getting uglier and uglier. Okay, so I go in, and if you look at that full 18 minutes, I'm getting a 2-minute slashing penalty right away because I'm slashing Franzen. What I'm trying to do is get a reaction out of him. So I slash him a couple times. If you look, he goes like this with his stick. He gives me a little whack in the head. Accidentally, I'm off balance, bump. And I'm slashing him and chirping him like, "Going, let's go." Let's be like, and we're already shorthanded, I think. So I'm getting a penalty. The puck goes around behind the net to delayed whistle. And Franzen starts skating towards me. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be the line brawl. He's going to sucker me. I'm going to take it. We're all going to pile in. And this might turn into either a bench clearing or at least a line brawl here. But I'm going to start this, okay? He comes towards me. I'm thinking he's going to pop me. I chop him. Now, I chop him on the right hip pant in that area. And he drops. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, it just plan went haywire. Because I'm thinking, I'm going to chop him. He's going to punch me. All hell's going to break loose. I chop him. He drops. And it's just it's almost like a music at a party. Just the music stops. And he's like, oh, no, this didn't go the way I planned this at all. Like, I think my heart rate was at 80. Like, I wasn't even in the game. I wasn't even engaged. I was just trying to start something. And he drops, the ref grabs me, skates me out. The linesman's like, "Hey, calm down." I'm like, "I'm fine, man." And they skate me right off the ice. Kipper goes back in, and everyone's losing it. And that's basically what happened. And I got 5 games. But the thing is we played the next night. So it was back-to-back, but it was in Calgary. Game 6 was in Calgary Sunday night. So we flew back after the game in Detroit. And Daryl said on the plane, Rich Preston pulled me aside, and Daryl said, "You're going to have a hearing, be at the rink at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning." So I have the hearing. Daryl's defending me, saying, that's nothing. It's a love tap, all of this stuff. And it looked worse than it was, which it was. My headphones are dying here, so hold on. Let me just.
No.
Can you guys hear me now?
Got you.
Okay. So Daryl's yelling at the league going, that's just a love tap. And so we wait, but we're playing that night. He goes, "You're going to get suspended a game for sure." And I'm like, okay. So I think they had Danny Saber in there or whoever was going to back up. And Rich Preston comes in and he goes, "You got 5 games," and he got fined. And Jimmy Playfair is like, he's joking, but he goes, he goes, "My kids, you just took a Sea-Doo out of our garage." He goes, "I was going to buy them a Sea-Doo this summer." And I was like, oh God, so the team gets $100,000, Jimmy gets 25, I get fined, all hell's breaking loose. And I was so embarrassed Like, that's the biggest thing. I was so embarrassed. I sent a note over because I know Chris Osgood, and I sent a note over just to be like, that wasn't personal, man. I was, just trying to start some, and it just didn't work out. Ironically, Johan Franzen scores the game-winning goal the next night. So he was resurrected, and he was fine.
On a shitty shot. Come on, Kipper. You could have had that one.
Yeah, I should have made that save. Anyways, at the end of the day, I've had conversations with Franzen since. I apologized to him because I was like, I wasn't targeting you. I was just trying to start it. And hopefully it's water under the bridge. I still get nasty Twitter messages from Detroit fans sometimes being like, you're a piece of this. And I just kind of chuckle. I'm like, let it go. It was 2007 or 2006 or whatever it was. So anyway, that was my last game in the National Hockey League. And unfortunately, it ended on a poor note, but I own it. It was my mistake, but that was my intention. And the thing is apparently the league said to Daryl, well, we could suspend Iggy for butt ending and Damon Langkow for something too. But, the low-hanging fruit is the idiot who slashed a guy in the stomach or in the hip area. So that's basically what it was.
And Franzen, in fairness, is 6'3", 240. And if anybody's ever worn a pair of hockey pants and has taken a slash across the front of the legs, there's a fair bit of padding there.
Put it this
he went
way,
down like he got shot.
I would still be laying there if he decided to beat me up. The guy was a monster. He was a moose. Like, he was like 240 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, he was so big. Like, yeah. I just, in my mind, that transaction, I was envisioning it, that he was going to sucker me or punch me because I'd been slashing him, and then all hell was going to break loose. But it didn't go down that way, and I have to own that one.
No, Jimmy had the wrong guys on. That's the problem.
Let's blame it on Jimmy, because I think Hammer.
He had Hammer and
like maybe Brad Stewart or something. But it was like,
that's right.
Yeah. Hammerlick was looking to old Carpy. We used to call him Sticky Fingers to Hammerlick. You would steal anything that wasn't nailed down in the dressing room.
Octopus.
Dion would drop off jerseys. Like, he'd come in with a box of Red Bull T-shirts, and Hammerlick would fight everybody for all these. Like, literally,
he wanted them all.
He'd take them all. Old Hammer used to call him Sticky Fingers Hammerlick. I love that guy. He was awesome. We had a lot of fun with him. But that's what happened that night, and unfortunately, I ended on a suspension.
Outdoor Dental. Dentistry with no needles, no drills, and no stress. Dr. Jay Patel decided a few years ago that it was time to change the dental experience for his patients. Introducing the Solea Laser. This laser treatment is pain-free, will leave you feeling relaxed and comfortable. In addition, the laser is used to treat sleep apnea by increasing the tension of the soft palate to reduce snoring. In just 2 15-minute treatments, you could be getting the amount and quality of sleep that you've been missing out on. Visit their website for more information and to book a consultation, outdoor.dental. That website again, outdoor.dental. The word is out. Mad Rose Pub in Royal Oak has become one of Calgary's best pubs, and it's no secret why. 20 beers on tap, kid-friendly Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, daily specials, lunch specials, some of the best food you're going to find in the city, period. Burgers, pastas, steaks, full entrees, and proud to serve one of the best and most talked about pizzas in Calgary. Summer's here. Come enjoy the brand new patio. Check out their website. Maybe order some takeout. Madrose.pub is the website. 15 Royal Vista Place is the address. It's Mad Rose Pub. What can you tell us about playing for the Nippon Paper Cranes?
It was awesome. Like, honestly, like, think of this, like in your lifetime, getting paid. It was like a paid vacation, getting paid to go play hockey in a country you probably wouldn't be on your list to go, okay, I'm going to Japan. So it all ties full circle. Joel Dick and Mike Dick, who I lived with in junior, their mom is Japanese. So Joel got his citizenship and went over and played there for 16 years. And he called me when I was going to retire, and he said, why don't we retire together? We played Bantam hockey together. Come over. So I went over, I went to the KHL, which was an absolute disaster. We could do a 2-hour show on that alone. And then I ended up in Japan with Nippon Paper, and Joel had been there 16 years, and went over there, me and Tyson Nash. It was awesome. The culture was great. They treated us first class. The level of hockey was about the East Coast League equivalent, so good players. But everything about it was just super cool. Like I went there for 4 months or 5 months. There was 4 teams in Japan, 2 in Korea, and 1 in China. So it was like you'd never. I got to go to those countries. I'd never been there before, so it was really cool and really great experiences. So I was really proud to, to be able to do that. But at the end of the season, I knew I was done. I remember calling Daryl and saying, "I'm retiring. I want to work for you." And Daryl gave me a job the next day. But it was literally, I had to get it out of my system. I knew I wanted to play 1 more year. Ended up in Japan, and it was awesome. But I knew I was done. I think I was like 38 years old, and I said, "Check, please. I'm out." So it was good.
And then you coach for a number of years, and then you were working with, as you talked about earlier, with Brent Sutter, and that grew, and then that came to an end. Did you know that coaching wasn't for you, or did you think I'll get a job somewhere else with another team? Because broadcasting was always seemingly going to be there for you in some way, shape, or form. But the coaching, as compared to what you're doing now,
it was, but I didn't love it. I loved my coach, the guys that I worked with, and Dave Lowry, Ryan McGill, Rob Cooks. I stay in touch with all of them. But I look at it and I joke with them to this day. We all are where we deserve to be, kind of thing. I ended up in the media. Those guys are all still, in hockey, either head coaches or assistant coaches. I look at it. I loved everything about it. But now that I'm a parent, I think coaching's a lot like being a parent. You can prepare your kid as much as possible, and then you send them out and they make mistakes, or they may, have a bad day or whatever that you can't control once they're out there. And that was the toughest part. Like coaches, there's a reason why they have gray hair. They're stressed all the time, because it's like the players, they don't care. Like, hey, goalie gives up 5 goals. He's going out for dinner. He's going for a beer. He's visiting with his buddies, and he's worried about the next game. The coach is worried about that game and preparing the team for, like, the coach, you're always on 24 hours. So I felt, and I was offered other jobs. And to this day, I've been offered to go back into hockey. And it's not that I won't, but it's got to be the right situation. I look back and I still had a lot to learn as a coach. I think I was a really good coach from a relationship standpoint, but I needed to be better technically. And it's almost like anything. That was my first couple of years coaching. I was still immature as a coach, and I needed to learn the ins and outs. So if I had to do it again, or not had to do it, if I decided to go back into it, I think I'd be a different coach now. I don't know if I'd be better, but I'd certainly be a little bit more technical. I was learning kind of on the fly, the technical stuff, because I was applying it from the stuff that I'd learned from my goalie coaches, Dave Marcoux, who's still a close friend. So it was, I like where I'm at, but if I had to go back into hockey, I'd like to be more in the behind the scenes, like management type of thing, AGM or player development, that type of stuff where, it's helping build a team and giving perspective and stuff, and being an advisor. I'd love to do that type of stuff. And those jobs aren't, they're not readily accessible to everybody. So it's, I am where I am right now, and I'm, this is my 13th year with TSN. So I'm pretty entrenched with them. I think they like me. I like them. And, so we'll see what happens. But I love calling games. I love being on all the shows that I'm on. I do TV, radio. I do all of the stuff that you guys know. So it would take a special circumstance for me to leave. But believe me, I get offered them every summer. It just, I think it's not the right timing right now. So we'll see what happens.
It's been how long? So how long have you been doing the daily radio show?
Well, since day one,
right?
Day one of TSN radio that's 12 years.
Yeah.
So I've been doing, but it used to be called Blue Lunch. Then it was Leafs Lunch. And then when O-Dog came, they moved us to the Drive show. So it's called Overdrive. And I think this is year 7.
Yeah.
Or 8. I don't know. It's 3 hours a day of us yelling and screaming and being idiots. I don't know. It just kind of blends together. But I think that's what it's been, that amount of time.
Well, you guys, it's the best in the country, and I think you guys are probably told that a lot, and I think you probably know that. But there's something special about having that dynamic. And is it grind on you a little bit? 3 hours every single day?
It does. Hour 3 sometimes if I've been sitting here in my home office and I've had dinner and I'm having the meat sweats, or we have a joke on our show where it's like, somebody will go baby monkey for a segment where like two guys are talking, the other guy's just sitting there like an idiot, like not paying attention. So I caught myself doing baby monkey yesterday during one of our interviews. I hadn't said a word. I was just sitting there going, oh, I'm on national TV. I should probably look alive. And I wasn't. But you know what? It's like anything. You guys will have, you hang up sometimes from a show and you go, yeah, we had a great show, or we had a bad show. I only notice the bad ones. Sometimes my wife will be like, how's the show? I'm like, I don't know. I think it was okay. If you don't remember it, you think that it was good. I only remember the times where you're like, all right, I just chewed my tongue off on that, or, I butchered that segment or whatever. Other than that, for the most part, we're a pretty well-oiled machine, but 3 hours is a lot a day. It is. It's a big ask.
The host does a lot of work, right? Like it's really,
he does. Yeah.
It's the host. I don't,
Yeah. Brian Hayes does all the heavy lifting, and me and O just, it's always the host. They're the rock stars. That's what it is.
Yeah. That's what they say. It's been my experience. Noodles, you are one of the best, man. Thanks for doing this. This went long. I knew it was going to go long, and it went longer than I thought. And there's so much we didn't even talk about, but that you had the career you did, you're getting coaching jobs. It speaks to your character, and you're one of those guys that I'll tell my kids about or whatever. If you're a good person and you treat people and you do things the right way, things are going to find their way, even if you have no idea where they're going. And I think you're one of those guys. There's no one that says a bad word about you. Everybody loves you. And you've treated people the right way, except Franzen, but you've treated people the right way along the way. And it's done amazing for you. You're one of the best at what you do. And that's the other thing. There's not many people that can do what you do. The radio, the TV, and the color commentary from Ice Level. Yeah. That is not easy. People think, oh, it's a breeze. You just go in. It's not easy. And you're very good at all of them.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I've transitioned and, I work hard at it. That's the one thing it is. I think my hockey training has helped transition into the media because I treat it, you've got to have the work ethic. You got to put the time in, you got to do all these things, but yeah, it's been good. And yeah, there are people that say bad things about my wife was all over me this morning. So she was chewing me out. So there's two people that you can point out, Franzen and my wife.
There you go. Hey, you're 52 or whatever. That's a short list. You've done pretty well. And Warner's sitting in Buffalo. So if you want to go get in the car and go back down to the bar in Buffalo, he can meet you there.
We can still find a pint.
Open invitation, Retro?
Yes, always.
We do. We are going to do that. We are going to have. Maybe we should have a follow-up show where I'm sitting beside you. That'll be fun. We'll do that.
I feel like there's a few guys from the old team that have the March date circled on their calendar for this year. So
yes. So I've already in planning my color schedule. There was only 2 blackout dates that I said don't even think of scheduling me for a game or to be on the radio that day because I probably would be non-functioning. And that March 2nd date that weekend, I think I'm going in the Thursday. I don't know. Hanlon has some stuff planned, but I've been trying to kind of plan it out with my life too, to just go in because it's all going to be all about Kipper, but it's going to be all about just catching up with the people that love Kipper. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. So that'll be a fun one.
Jamie, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate you. Best of luck.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me. We'll chat soon.
Be good, Jump.
All right. Chat later.
Hiya, buddies. Boomer. from Barnburner on flamesnation.ca here with a little bit of Betway action for you. Now, the Miami Dolphins, as we know, off to a great start. They are 2-0. A lot can happen. AFC East. Patriots are 0-2. The Bills are 1-1, and I think by many favored to win this division. But how about Miami? If they win this division, Coach of the Year future bet, Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel. Win the division. Why not Mike McDaniel? Right now, plus 700. I'll take it. Fins up. Find that one and more at Betway. Those boys will be putting on a show. Mika Kiprasov, that jersey going to the rafters. Nail down the furniture because those guys are coming back. And I mean, man, if we could ever get them to sit down for a while and put a microphone and have a visit with them, it'd be great. It'd be tricky, but we'll try our best. Jamie McLennan, love the guy. He is one of the best. There's just no two ways about it. Thanks to him for spending all that time with us. We had to cut it into 2 parts, 2 hours, more than 2 hours at the end of the day. But appreciate Noodles. Appreciate you for being a part of what we're doing. Obviously, we're getting into a training camp for the Flames is underway. We're getting into preseason games. Sunday is the first game, and then Monday, and they got 4 games in, 6 nights, and then we're into it, folks. We'll be back with the shows next week. Retro Pinder back from his European vacation. Did he get his, his bikini line waxed? I don't know. We'll probably find out. But we appreciate you. Have yourself a fine weekend. Be safe, be kind, and looking forward to having you on board as we get into full swing next week. Hockey season, baby. Let's go. Barn burner. Have a great weekend. See you, buddies.